Hello Internet, it's me, Josh, the aging gamer. So, it's pretty rare when a video game comes out that just makes you feel so much emotion. It's one of the reasons RPGs are so popular. There's so much story that's involved, so many characters to get invested with, so many opportunities for the developers to make you think what's going on in this universe. You can spend hours among hours playing and just soak up the world that's presented to you. One of the first games I experienced this with is Final Fantasy VII. This was one of the PlayStation's breakthrough must-have titles, and it helped put the PS1 on the map. It's still adored today, with fans claiming it to be one of their favorite games of all time, though it's got a fair amount of haters who claim it to be one of the most overrated games ever. Well, 2 decades after its release, how does this game hold up? Let's find out. Ladies and gentlemen, this is Final Fantasy VII. So the story of Final Fantasy VII is, well, to simplify it greatly, our main hero, Cloud Strife, along with machine gun for a hand Barrett Wallace and busty waifu material Tifa Lockhart, want to take down the organization Shinra, who is poisoning the planet. Meeting up with more characters, they find out there's bigger problems to deal with, like the most evil mama's boy there is, Sephiroth, who of course wants to destroy humanity. Sephiroth summons a giant meteor to crash into the planet. Can Cloud and company save the world, while also dealing with Cloud's identity issues and everyone else overcoming their depressing backstory? Well, yeah, of course they do. So one of the first things you'll notice is how beautiful the backgrounds are. Back in the PS1 days, these were incredible and still hold up today. Then enter our Nintendo 64 looking character models. Ugh. Actually, I take that back. N64 put in a bit more detail. But I suppose it's not the game's fault. Final Fantasy VII is a huge game, 3 discs long to be exact, and with all the backgrounds, music, and content, I can see why Squaresoft had to gimp the models. And to be fair, the battles have improved visuals, but man, how awesome would it be to have seen these models take place at those ones? And speaking of battles, let's talk about the gameplay. So what's the best way to explain how the battle system works? Have you ever played an RPG before? There you go! You get to attack, defend, equip and use magic, equip stronger armor and weapons to increase your stats, you know, the typical RPG tropes. And when I say that, I'm not saying that as an insult of any kind. The battle system is simple, and it works. In fact, that's one of the things I love about the old RPGs, is that they just weren't a big confusing mess. And after playing the likes of Final Fantasy XIII and XV, it really makes me appreciate Final Fantasy VII's gameplay mechanics even more. And there are some pretty cool things you can do here, like the limit breakers. After your character gets damaged enough, your limit meter will fill up and you can launch a pretty badass powerful attack. Just look at some of these! And if you think some of these limit breakers are cool, wait until you see the summons. The likes of Bahamut, Odin, Ifrit, and all those lovable monsters of destruction make a return here. So, Final Fantasy VII, with a pretty basic battle system, and the graphics being beautiful, horrendous, and badass all at the same time. What is it about the game that makes people go crazy for it? Well, I'd have to say, it's the story, of course. It starts off pretty slow, like most RPGs, but once it picks up and you start meeting new characters, it starts to get interesting. And I have to say, it's pretty easy to fall in love with all the characters. Well, most of the characters. I think having a smaller party of only 9 characters, 2 of which are optional, really gives you the opportunity to get to know the characters more. Barrett is a rugged, foul-mouthed badass, Red 13 is a wise but ferocious kitty cat, Yuffie is the comedy relief and adorable thief, Tifa is the sweet and caring dolphin-punching badass, Vincent is the tragic, mysterious sharpshooter, Sid is basically a white Barrett, and Aerith, who I refuse to call Aerith. I don't care if it was a translation error, it is Aerith, not Aerith. I refuse to sound like Sylvester the cat. But she is also a lovely character. And there's also Cloud. Cloud is a very perplexing character. He starts off as a selfish asshole, not caring about anyone, and kind of playing with the hearts of 2 women, but towards the end he becomes more human, more lighthearted. He becomes a caring and daring leader of his group. So it boggles the mind that this Cloud is absent from every appearance outside of this game. Dirge of Cerberus, Dissidia, Advent Children, he just always seems like he's on the verge of having a breakdown. He comes off so emotionless, like a robot, which is not the feeling I got towards the end of Final Fantasy VII. To me, this Cloud is nothing like the others. This Cloud is badass, this Cloud, not so much. But again, it's easy to get invested with all the characters, whether they be good guys or bad guys, like the Turks and Sephiroth. They all get their stories in, and good lord, the settings with the dialogue, the music, everything gets set up so perfectly in this game, especially the music. There's so many tunes that can strike that certain chord of emotion. They really nail it in this game. The sadness of Eris's death, the evilness of Shinra, the desperation of battle, and of course one of the most epic villain themes of all time. Dare I say, Final Fantasy VII is the best soundtrack of any video game I've played, and there are a lot of good video game soundtracks out there. So all in all, does Final Fantasy VII still hold up 2 decades later? Yes! Lovable characters, edgy mature themes, and beautiful music aside, Final Fantasy VII still packs a punch in the gameplay department. There's lots of things you can do, so many side mission stuff. There's also lots of different outcomes to different situations depending on what choices you make. Nothing groundbreaking, but depending on who you favor, you can go on a date with different characters once you reach the Golden Saucer, or you can see an entirely different scenario during the infamous cross-dressing scene. And what I also appreciate about this game is that there's lots of times where they change the gameplay up to keep it fresh. I'm not talking about doing squats or keeping up your body temperature in the snowy mountains. I'm talking about riding your motorcycle and slashing at enemies, chocobo racing, and even snowboarding. This game is crammed with content. However, I can see how some people wouldn't like the game. I always try to not be biased in my reviews and try to call things down the middle, so it's only fair that I talk about the not so great things about this game. So again, the out-of-battle graphics, which is what you'll see the majority of the time, has terrible character models. Even back in 1997, they were awful. And with the beautiful detailed backgrounds, it makes the character models look like pre-alpha footage. Also, going back and playing the game recently, I realized it's a bit too easy. There's little to no strategy for battles. Just keep hitting the bad guys with strong attacks. If you grind your character up a bit, you'll have no troubles going through this game. And if you're one of those people who skim through the stories in RPGs, you'll be skimming a lot here. Some people love the story of Final Fantasy VII, while some find it a confusing plot hole mess. So if you're not feeling the story, the game is going to drag on. Sometimes the story parts go on way too long, and you'll be watching story cutscenes every time you enter a town or dungeon. But if the graphics don't bother you and you're okay with the story over gameplay aspect, then yeah, I totally recommend this game. Final Fantasy VII will always hold a special place in my heart. I'm not saying this is the best Final Fantasy game ever, but when people complain that the game is overrated, it's rated that way for a good reason. While yes, a lot of that is due to nostalgia, it really is a one-of-a-kind game. I can't compliment the music enough, with some of the most memorable tracks in the whole Final Fantasy series coming from here. And the story, it grabs at the emotions. The whole theme of the game is dealing with death and overcoming it, but the game doesn't make it a downer to play. It has lots of lighthearted, humorous, and feel-good moments. And when you combine all of that along with a game that has so much to do and so much to explore, you just get something special. It's hard to say if the remake will be able to capture all the magic of the original though, with them switching up the battle system to be more modern, making the game episodic, changing the story to meet social norms and to fit in elements from the spin-offs, and likely dealing with rubbish like special editions, day one editions, DLC, patches, season passes, and all that other garbage. I can't say I'm all that excited. Regardless, if you have access to the original game, you're getting a total package. And no matter what they do with the series today, the spirit of the original game is something I believe is worth experiencing. But these are just my opinions. What do you guys think? Love or hate Final Fantasy VII? Let me know in the comments below. If you like this video, go ahead and give it a like. I appreciate it. And go ahead and subscribe so you don't miss out on future videos. Like always, I thank you guys for watching. And until next time, I'll see you later.